I just went to the weirdest place I have ever been in my entire life, out in the Nevada desert at a landfill. Strap in, because this is one heck of an adventure. Well, good morning from Hurricane, Utah. You might be wondering why I'm starting the video here in this just gravel pull-off on the side of the road. It's because before we do anything else, I want to show you something a little risque. You see that mountain in the dead center of your screen? That's no mountain. That's a nipple. And not just any nipple. That butte right there is called Molly's Nipple, named by a man named John Kitchen after his wife, Molly. Clearly, he had a lot of respect for what she was offering. And get this is not the only Molly's Nipple named by him in Utah. There are at least 10 other geological features with the same name, all named after Molly Kitchen's assets. Not exactly what you're expecting in Utah first thing in the morning, but hey, Utah is full of surprises. True, a little bit of a strange beginning, but I could actually see Molly's Nipple out of the window of my hotel room this morning, drank my morning coffee and thought, you know, let's get a clearer view of the nipple and then begin today's adventure. Hurricane, Utah is a very interesting place. Like the rest of southern Utah, it was settled by Mormon pioneers. It's a very unusual name, and supposedly got that name from a very early Utah pioneer by the name of Erastus Snow, who was supposedly riding through this part of southern Utah, and he was a big part of the colonization of southern Utah, northern Arizona. When the top of his buggy was blown off by a whirlwind, he said, well, that was a hurricane. Let's name this Hurricane Hill. So why is the town called Hurricane now? Because a lot of those early Mormon settlers actually came over from England. There were a lot of Liverpudlians and people from the north of England, and they pronounced hurricane as hurricane. You know, you got a picture like George Harrison or something in the early days of the Beatles, you know, it's a hurricane. Hurricane's a good word, George. That's a bit of a toe tapper. Now, obviously, more and more people settled here in town, and so I've heard it pronounced hurricane and hurricane, which is all fine, but as I learned when I first came to this town 8 years ago now, whatever you do, don't call it hurricane, or people here will scold you. As you can see, a very tiny original main street. As I may have mentioned, the town was founded in 1896. I believe originally as an extension of the Cotton Mission, which was when the Mormons were trying to grow cotton throughout this part of southern Utah, which they actually refer to as Dixie. I always find fascinating trying to grow cotton down here in the southern Utah desert. Apparently they were fairly successful at it, proving that where there's a will, there's a way. I love that little Main Street cafe over here. You have some of the older buildings in town. You see this tall two-story building. It really looks like those may be original adobe bricks there on the side with a more fancy brick front. And just cruising around through downtown Hurricane, you can see it was clearly a pretty profitable place, at least for some people. This house is called the Stanworth House, and it was completed in 1912 by Emmanuel Nutter Stanworth and his wife Ursula, who were both born in the nearby town of Grafton, which is now a ghost town. We just filmed yesterday. It's on the National Register of Historic Places, and there's a little plaque out front that calls this style of home Victorian Eclectic, a term I've never heard before, but perfectly describes this kind of architecture. I love that. There are other examples of early homes scattered throughout downtown Hurricane. The southern part of Main Street is pretty quiet, pretty chill down here. It gets a little busier where Utah 9 cuts through on its way to Zion National Park. Nothing I love more than strolling down a small town's Main Street of a morning, especially in little towns that take a lot of pride in their history, which Hurricane definitely does. 8 years ago, I was traveling through this town on my way to the real-life Big Thunder Mountain near Bryce Canyon National Park. And when traveling through Hurricane, I was coming down Utah 9, this main road up here that crosses Main Street leading out to the national parks, when my eyes beheld a tourist information center and museum right at the heart of town in the little heritage park over here. People from Utah are very proud of their history as a general rule, but in Hurricane, they really take it to the next level. Look at all of these places on the National Register of Historic Places on this map, and just look around this park. You've got covered wagons and all kinds of farm implements, some of them for farming cotton. And this crazy statue in the center of the park with a son apparently kneeling down before his father and mother. I'm sorry, Father, I spilled the water. I don't know what's going on there. Perhaps if I read the sign, that might help a little bit. It says, Pioneer Gratitude. They've worked hard for their harvest in the desert. and they are just standing there giving a little thanks. I like that. You notice they have this little building here up against the highway in the Pioneer Heritage Park. This is the museum's carriage house. It's kind of hard to see through the windows with all the glare, but inside you'll find a big old plastic horse towing an old historic buggy to kind of commemorate the buggy incident that gave the hill its name. Later, a canal company built a water canal to bring water to this valley. It was also named the Hurricane Canal. So although various other names were suggested, of course, the town became known as Hurricane. Now, all this stuff is great and would have grabbed my attention anyways, but the coolest, craziest thing about this museum is not what's on the outside, but the artifacts on the inside. Two of them in particular, two food items, as a matter of fact, that are older than our oldest living grandparents. Two food items I just had the urge this morning to check up on. A 100-year-old fruitcake and a big old hunk of bacon nearly as big. Now, there's one problem. There's a sign on the front that says, please, no pictures. That was not the case 8 years ago. I'm gonna go inside and see what's going on. Okay, I got permission. There it is. The 119-year-old fruitcake baked by people from Grafton, once again from our ghost town from yesterday, 119 years old. And then look at this, they also have an 81-year-old piece of bacon that was hanging in someone's cellar since 1945, donated to the museum in 1996. They also have a big display on the canal that goes from the Virgin River and brings water to Hurricane, and even the tools, the picks and shovels that were used to make the canal that brought water here to the desert. The no pictures thing primarily refers to the Native American room in there. Apparently they had some kind of problem with somebody or other. Taking pictures and abusing the system is how it was put to me, so I don't know what that means, but at least we got to see the fruitcake and the bacon. No word on if they are edible or not still. Maybe someday somebody will try. Anyway, we're here on the kind of main intersection here, literally Main Street and State Street, which is also Utah 9 that heads out to Zion National Park, Bryce Canyon, all points in between. And look at this, you have a few more ancient Main Street buildings kind of on the main drag, but I'm not quite done enjoying Hurricane's museums out here, because something I did not see 8 years ago is I did not turn down this street and notice that the museum has a sister property just up here on the next corner. I rolled into town this morning to find a parking spot here on Main Street. I pulled up right in front of it. It's part of the Heritage Park. They call it Pioneer Corner. It's part of the Heritage Park, and this old building right here that has a little bit of that Victorian eclectic siding on it was being built right at the same time that fruitcake was being baked. So you look at this and you think, oh, that's an old house for sure. There's a freaking fruitcake the same age across the street. This was the Bradshaw house, named for Ira Bradshaw, who built the place and was the president of the canal company, a Mormon missionary. It was the first permanent home built in town. It held dances and all kinds of social functions and was the town's first school. Pretty important building if your ancestors came and were some of the early families here in Hurricane. Must be crazy to just live in a town where you can walk into a building and go, yeah, my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather had an old barn dance in here. This is where Grandma learned to read. Anyways, it's part of the museum thing, so I am going to go inside. I don't know what the picture policy is like in here. See what's going on. That's a beautiful front door. It's crazy how ornate this is for a pioneer home built out in the desert. Oh, wow, yeah. The house is much bigger on the inside than I was expecting. I mean, it was added on to over the years. They added a lot of rooms, but it was used apparently not just as the house in the first schoolhouse, but an orphanage. We got the original birthing table in there that many of the ancestors of the current residents were born on. All kinds of historic artifacts and information about the Bradshaws and the people from town. The very nice lady was guiding me around in there and encouraged me strongly to go up the creepy stairs to what she called the creepy doll room. No good small town museum would be worth its salt without a creepy doll room. What I wasn't expecting is for it to be actually creepy. Got some holes in the walls where you can see some of the original construction in there. Obviously, a lot was added on to the back and to the sides of the house over the years as it served in its various different roles and functions. I can see from the back porch that there is a cellar down there. I bet that is really creepy. I mean, the attic, or the upstairs rather. was pretty creepy.
I can only imagine what the downstairs is like.
The really neat part is when you're done with the house, you can come outside and see almost like a little miniature Knott's Berry Farm or something in the backyard. The nice lady inside was telling me that the Bradshaw family has come here during reunions, and you'll literally have like 100 people crawling all over the house whose ancestors built the place. But some of these buildings out here in the backyard are original buildings that were original, 1 and 2 room homes. And the other cool thing is they have all these tools and artifacts and pieces of equipment that they use to mill sorghum and make molasses and get that cotton and plow the fields. It's kind of amazing. Look at this huge wagon over here. It says this was the last new wagon sold in 1930 by the Sandberg Mercantile here in Hurricane. Up until 1990, it was held by a private family. They used it in all kinds of parades in town, stuff like that. 1930, that's pretty crazy. The automobile and trucks were already, pretty popular and pretty common. I never really stopped to think about the fact that, yeah, some wagon somewhere had to be the last one ever sold to some guy who just wouldn't give up on horse-drawn vehicles. Look at this, you got this old blacksmith shop display over there, a bunch more farm equipment, and then look at this, one of the original houses dragged onto the property for display. This is the Spencer and Helen Isom home, built at about 1915. That's crazy. My grandpa was born in 1915 in St. Louis, and his sisters would always tell me stories about growing up without indoor plumbing or anything like that. You just don't think of that because you see these big brick buildings and everything. And here you just have this little 2-room shack, basically, out here in the desert. 1915. It seems so recent, you think, you see something like this, you think, oh yeah, the 1850s out there. No. It's wild to think that even in my own grandparents' day, there were people all over America living without air conditioning, without indoor heating or plumbing. This is a different branch of the same Isom family lived in this little tiny house way out in the valley somewhere. They were doing their farming and then come back to this place. Everything's locked up on this particular day. The sign here says that a family continued to live in this little house until 1948. Dude, imagine living in there after the radio had been invented. Literally, you could come home from World War II and come home to this as your house out in the middle of the valley and need to work out there baling hay or whatever. Here's an old original outhouse back here. It looks a little worse for wear. I don't think it's currently in use, although it's the one building that's still unlocked. She said, be careful, there's black widows in there. Luckily, I used the facilities in the My Place Hotel, so I don't need to use these. And you got one of those old original barns from the valley here. They had to put a new roof on it, obviously, but it's amazing how well preserved this wood is. In my head, I was thinking, man, how does this look so good if it's 100+ years old and it was just out here being weathered? And then I remembered next door they got a fruit cake that's more than 100 years old that looks even better. So there must be something in the air out here in Hurricane that's good for preservation. Look at this old stone trough here. It looks like a sarcophagus, but I'm guessing that was a horse trough or something like that. I don't know what it takes to make something like that. Maybe it's concrete. Okay, it's concrete. That makes a lot more sense. I was thinking, it would take a while to carve that out of stone. Obviously, they got a lot of old tools out here. They must do demonstrations. I love this. Wooden pipes, old original wooden pipes, because metal pipes were hard to get back in the day. And so that's how they would do it. You see some of these actually at Knott's Berry Farm. You see the metal banding that would hold it together. The water would cause the wood to swell and become more or less waterproof. So there used to be wooden pipes all over America, especially in the West. That is how you'd bring water to your fields way back in the day. Anyway, this is not my primary objective for the day. I've got to make my way home, so I've got to go from Hurricane back over there to St. George, Utah, down near Las Vegas, and eventually back to my home in Anaheim, California. I don't know if I'll make it today, but I was looking at my route homewards, and I saw something only an hour or two out of the way that I've been meaning to go visit for quite a while, but was always in way too much of a hurry. Something mystical, unusual, something I'm not even sure I'm gonna be able to get up close to for all I know, but I'm gonna take a stab at it. Anyway, Hurricane, Utah. Very cool place, right next to Zion National Park, or very, very close. They got My Place Hotel, they got Costa Vida, they got a grocery store, they got everything in this town, including a lot of history, which I was very honored to see. Now it's time to roll out. Pretty cool town, man. Close to a lot of cool things to see. You got the Nipple, you got the museums. I had a good time. Saw some antique shops and thrift shops that maybe I'll get to explore next time, but for now, time to roll out. Time to roll along. Man, can't beat Utah for scenery. Gorgeous. All right, to get to where I'm going is about 2 hours from Hurricane, but to get there, we've actually got to leave the state of Utah, cross into Arizona for just a little bit, down the Virgin River Gorge here, which is always the scariest part of the drive between Nevada and Utah, and then down into Nevada itself. I really hate this part. I don't know why. Probably because it's a high, narrow canyon with very few pull-offs, and everybody is going like 20, 30 miles over the speed limit, including all the trucks at all times. It just makes me a little uncomfortable. Luckily or unluckily, there's a little bit of traffic in the gorge right now. Hopefully everybody's okay and nobody got into a wreck or anything like that. Actually, this isn't looking good. I was gonna say at least we're gonna be cruising slowly, but actually it looks like we're not cruising at all. We're just parked. Okay, things started moving again here. Oh no, that is not a good day. Not a good day. Looks like everybody got pulled out though. Everybody looked okay standing there. Everybody's going a lot slower now too, which is nice. As you can see, it's crazy. It's windy, it's crazy. People come down here going like 90 miles an hour. It's 55 miles an hour. People went the speed limit, it'd be fine. It's not even the worst part yet. Not only is it windy and narrow and twisty, but the rocks are all going up at crazy angles. There's a little bit of like a fun house effect as you're going down. At least for me, it gives me a little bit of vertigo. You're pointed downhill anyways. It's wild. But like all trials and tribulations, eventually it comes to an end. And you're back in the flat, wide open spaces again. Woo! I feel better now. Well, anyway, we crossed the Nevada border. Got many, many more miles of beautiful desert views. I mean, if desert views are your thing, this is the drive for you. And you can tell we are truly in Nevada now because look at this, even the gas stations have got casinos in them. Personally, I'm more interested in the clean restrooms, especially since this is where we're splitting off from the interstate and taking the road much less traveled. This is so weird. The language above the sign for the restrooms keeps on changing. And I have no idea why the Flintstones are on the door for the family restroom, but, oh look, the Jetsons too. Check this out, you got Batman on the men's room. I'm a little confused about the licensing agreement because you had Superman and Spider-Man on the stall doors over there. There's the casino, by the way, just a couple of slot machines. Not the kind of casino that James Bond would hang out at. But a worthy place to stop and unload some cargo before heading off into the wild. All right, well, just on the other side of the freeway, we find the tiny former town of Glendale, Arizona. It became a town in the late 70s, all based on one man's family and employees. A guy by the name of Charlie Hester owned some property out here, a service station and very small motel. The town was eventually dissolved when the population dropped under the 5 residents needed to make up the town council, so it's now been absorbed into nearby Moapa Valley here. And this is where we turn off the interstate and head way out into the desert to meet up with the highway that actually leads to Area 51 to see something many people pointed out to me when I went to Area 51 a couple years ago, for the second time, by the way, that I had missed. Not a lot of resources out there detailing the history of Glendale, but one has to assume that must have been Charlie's house over there. It's the only big house I see. There's a little house right over here. Hard to tell. A lot of these little highway watering holes that later become abandoned never had enough people to really establish clear history in a big enough way that it would later filter down to the internet where we could find it, you know? But the little town of Moapa Valley's out here. The Moapa River Indian Reservation is still just up this highway, State Highway 168, and that is where we are heading to link up with Highway 93. Oh yeah, man. Not a lot of people out here. This is pretty much the whole town. You got the little bar and grill on the left, the tiny little post office on the right, a couple of mobile home parks, couple of houses and farms. Not too much going on yet compared to where we're heading for the next 36 miles. This is civilization. I do see a little Mormon church out there. That's because this part of Nevada was heavily settled by Mormons originally, including the town of Las Vegas. Originally a Mormon stronghold. Kind of weird. You don't think about Las Vegas that way today, do you? Anyway, that's not the important part. The important part comes after dozens of miles of no man's land. It was a cool drive, man. I've got to correct myself a little bit because I did see actually quite a bit of scattered settlements along that back road, but beautiful desert drive. And now we find ourselves at the intersection of US 93. Off to our left, way down there is Las Vegas, Nevada. And this highway actually goes all the way up through the Nevada desert, all the way up to Idaho. And this is also, if you're coming from Las Vegas, the way you get to the extraterrestrial highway, the way you get to Hico and Alamo and Rachel, Nevada, and Area 51. But we're not going nearly that far. We're only gonna go 10 miles or so up this highway. And what I'm looking for, of all things, is a landfill, which is probably why I never noticed or stopped at this place. But this is not supposed to be just any ordinary landfill. By the way, and this is just a total side note, I'll never understand when people don't like the desert. This is not my analogy, but a friend of mine once said, man, going to the desert is like seeing Mother Nature with her clothes off. And I was like, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Now, let's see if I can find this landfill. We're literally going to the dump. Okay, I think I see the landfill. Let's see if I can pull into it without this huge red truck behind me smashing into the rear. You can see why I've missed out on this particular roadside oddity. I mean, it's just a landfill on the left. Why would I even pay attention? This is where we're supposed to turn left. Right here on Williams Way. All right, good. The truck didn't smash us. To the Western Elite Landfill. I don't know. I see a guard shack and everything and a lot of trucks going in and out of the landfill. I don't know what's going on. Apparently I need to go on the left side of the road here. What the heck in the world? Okay, yeah, this is super private property. I checked in at the guard shack. And of course the lady goes, how did you hear of us? I had to tell her, I first heard about it because someone was like, oh, did you see that thing on your way to Area 51 last time? I was like, what thing? This freaking thing. Behold, not Stonehenge, but RyanHenge. And as you can see, it was built in 2017, so it wasn't even here when I first went to Area 51. There's no sign on US 93. There's no pamphlets in the hotel lobby about this place. Would you look at the size of this? Unlike many other Stonehenge replicas that I've been to, whether Stonehenge 2 in Texas just last month or Carhenge in Nebraska, this is a completed Stonehenge. Look at that giant pole there in the center. There's a bunch of twinkling lights above our heads. What in the extraterrestrial wonderland is going on? This is freaking amazing. The weirdest part is standing in here, my voice is echoing. I don't know if you can hear that, especially from the center. My voice is echoing off all the stones. Hello. Weird. All beneath our feet. Look at this. You have an entire map of the globe. You've got Antarctica. Over there you got Europe. Dude, this is incredible. Inside the circle is a map of the entire Earth from Greenland up there. There's Europe and Africa. I'm kind of standing on South America. There's Antarctica down there. And the lady at the guard shack did give me a little pamphlet here that they hand out when you visit. All of this was constructed by the Williams family that owns the landfill out here, particularly Ryan Williams, which is why it's called RyanHenge. The pamphlet here is a little bit confusing because it's talking a lot about astronomy and the stars and stuff like that, but apparently Ryan and his dad Ron got fascinated by the movement of the stars and the non-movement of the North Star. They would come out here and they put this giant pole up because they had been marking the shadows from this spot for a couple of years. They're just doing their, astronomical observations from this point. And look at that. There's Ryan right there. You got Lynn. Who else is on here? Oh, there's Ron. That's Ryan's dad, the patriarch of the Williams clan, I suppose. And I don't know who Mike Boone is, but his name's on here too. I feel like I'm supposed to preach a sermon. I feel like I'm in a cathedral in here, the echo. Ah, okay. Mike Boone, according to the pamphlet, is the guy who helped to build RyanHenge. It is designed to survive for more than 1,000 years. The structure is built with concrete and reinforced with rebar. The circular floor was placed in 2014 and has a diameter of 120 feet. It's all built to mark solstices and stuff like that. Supposedly Ryan's birthday is on the winter solstice, so that's all part of it. I gotta be honest with you, I've never really understood the movement of the stars. There's a lot of things I don't understand, if I'm being perfectly frank. But all of this, the entire pamphlet, is all just about the Southern Cross and the movement of the stars and the astrological calendar, astronomical calendar. Dude, for a random father and son project, this got way out of hand. Clearly they are very fascinated by the stars, the sunrise and sunset, the movement of the heavens. And look at this, you can scan here for more information, so pull your phone out. You could scan that maybe right off the screen you're watching from. Weird. You can find out all about RyanHenge. If the movement of the stars is your thing, maybe it'll make more sense to you than it does to me. This is absolutely freaking insane. Just a world map on the ground would have got me off the highway. But look at this incredible Stonehenge over here. It's weird that standing to the side, there's almost no echo at all. But I don't know if you can hear this, but look as I approach the center, 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 and then right on the center, echo, central, echo. Echo! Dude, this is absolutely insane. I've seen a couple of Stonehenge replicas trying to duplicate Stonehenge in England, but this is RyanHenge. This is his own henge, his own solar and astrological, nomical, I always get those two mixed up, calendar. I have never seen anything like this in all of my travels. The dedication to this crazy idea is absolutely insane. I can only imagine what it costs to build, and it's constructed to last for 1,000 years. And I just have to wonder if in 1,000 years, you know, after the apocalypse and whatnot, people will come out here and be like, this must have been built by aliens. It's gonna end up like the Great Pyramids. It'll be the pyramids, the Nazca lines, and RyanHenge. Who built it? It must have been aliens. Oh, and maybe the conspiracy theorists are right, because look, there's one of them now. Dude, this is so bizarre. Like I said, this is on the way to the extraterrestrial highway. By the way, this must look amazing at night, because I can see there are lights at the base of each one of the vertical stones. So strange. The pamphlet has just got all kinds of information on where the shadow from the pole goes and how you can sun only touches some certain spots at noon, blah, 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 blah. I don't understand any of that. I'm more impressed with these plastic aliens. Hello, you must be Ryan. Did you build this place? Hello there, sir. Are you Ryan? I really like your henge. It's just absolutely unbelievable. And RyanHenge isn't the only thing here, as if this wasn't enough. But look at what else the Williams family has built for themselves out here. The lady at the guard shack called this the arena. As you can see, there are a bunch of cows and horses out there in that central space. I think I see a llama off in the distance. She was particularly careful to warn me not to climb over the fence and try to get a selfie with the animals. Apparently there have been some mishaps in the past. And she told me I could wander as far as the little stone church you see off in the distance, and then over this way, as far as that kind of silvery building in the distance. And there's some more interesting stuff to see out here. This might be the weirdest place I've ever gone. I've gone a lot of strange, unusual places. But a family in the landfill business, building their own Stonehenge meditation garden, which is what we're passing now. Actually, let's wander into the meditation garden as we meditate on this question as to whether this is the weirdest place I've ever been or not. I've never seen anything like, it's in the middle of nowhere. Look up Alamo, Nevada. That's the town we are nearest. That is so far off the beaten path of where most people ever go. You would be hard pressed to find, you know, more remote locations that weren't off in Alaska or something like that. This is pretty much the middle of nowhere. You know, not to slight the people who do live and work out here. I'm not saying they're from nowhere. After all, everywhere is or was or will be somebody's everything. You know what I mean? But what I'm trying to say is, for something like this, something built on this scale, this is crazy. This wasn't built to be a tourist trap or to make money. This wasn't placed on a major highway to get people to pull over and buy gas or souvenirs. This is just something the Williams family out here just wanted to do. Look at this. We have like this giant sundial right over here with all kinds of names on it. I see Ron on there again, really big. And look there's some little trinkets and stuff placed into the handprints. It's like the landfill version of the Grauman's Chinese Theater courtyard. This is crazy. Look, there's a little, almost like a little time capsule right there on this one. I see some like remnants of plants in there. I don't really understand what it's supposed to be. It's cool though. The lady at the front kind of mentioned, in the context of telling me where not to go, There's a lot of other buildings beyond where I'm allowed to go that are private property just meant for the family and the people who live and work here. So clearly there's some employees that live on the property. Oh, look at this over here. So this is the wildest, weirdest thing ever. What in the heck? Okay, silence is golden. So this really is a place for meditation. Luckily, we're not disturbing anyone out here right now. And they've got this like electrical cord going across here, I think to power some Christmas lights. But look at this labyrinth on the ground. And if you make your way through the whole labyrinth, in the center, look at this. Got a whole bunch of crosses and the law is love. Very interesting. Okay, so going back out towards the main driveway, check this out. There's a whole bunch more to see. We've got some rusty old cars out here. This is more the type of thing I would expect to see. You know, oh, there's this cool family, they own a landfill, and they put some really cool stuff out on their property. This is what I'd expect. There's a landscape company in Placentia or Fullerton, where I'm from in Orange County, that's got a whole bunch of old trucks along the fence, you know, that kind of thing. Not freaking Stonehenge, I'm sorry, RyanHenge over there. This is incredible, man. And this is not all, it just gets bigger and bigger and better. What the heck? Look at, there's a whole freaking train right here. There's a good caboose, and there's nothing I love more than a good caboose. And then look at these. This is incredible. Do you know what these are? These are Buffalo Bill's Wild West Touring Exposition Pullman cars. These are the actual train cars they used to travel in when Buffalo Bill had his Wild West Exposition that traveled all over the United States. This is insane. I believe these were once on display in Las Vegas. I can't remember where, but I don't understand any of this. This is insane. This is William Cody's private car right here. And there's a bunch of little signs going along the length of the car telling you what's inside. So this section is the lavatory. So this is where Buffalo Bill went to the bathroom on the train. Here's his sleeping quarters, windows, according to that sign right there. You got Teddy Roosevelt's sleeping quarters, because Teddy Roosevelt also traveled on this very train car. Annie Oakley, she had her sleeping quarters right here. This is not something you'd expect to find at, you know, no offense intended, the dump. This is wild. Okay, you got the dining room, a whole bunch of little signs right here. The crew's quarters for that car, and then another car down this way. A sign that says it's the most magnificently preserved specimen of an 1890s private business car on display. Originally owned by the president of the Colorado Midland Railroad. That is so cool. So this one not used for the Buffalo Bill show. It's just a separate private car, a very richly and fancily adorned car. I should have said appointed. And by the way, behind me, look at these old fire engines. Not what I was expecting. I heard of the Henge. I didn't know anything about any of this. But then look at that. Look at that giant neon sign up there. Main Street Station. I'm assuming that came from Las Vegas. This is a 1912 Seagrave fire truck. Wow, that is incredible. With a right-hand driver's seat, by the way. And then look over here. We've got another one right in front of us, dead ahead. Looks like from a little later time period. And I'm only glossing over this thing because I don't know enough about trains to identify what exactly that is. Oh, look at this, it's another Seagrave fire truck. I've never heard of Seagrave. I've traveled a lot, I've been to a lot of car museums. I've tried to do as much as I can to learn about vintage cars over the years as I've encountered more and more of them doing Randomland, but yeah, I've never heard of that. That's crazy. She asked me not to go beyond this silver building, and I will follow the rules. And by the way, this silver building is supposedly an original old gold stamp mill, right? So when they would get the rock ore out of mines, they would crush it to get the gold out in this building. So it's an old original mining building. But look at that, beyond that, you can see some Christmas Express railroad cars. So there are more railroad cars on the property. And speaking of the ones we just saw, it says train tours by special arrangements only. That's amazing. I should have made special arrangements. Dang it, what was I thinking? Look at this big Christmas tree out here. I wonder if they do like big Christmas events for the locals out here, or if this is just the family setting up some decorations for their own fun, for them and the employees and all that kind of stuff. This is absolutely incredible. I would have done more research, but I just never heard of this place, and I thought I was just coming to see a Stonehenge replica. I didn't know I was gonna come see almost a private amusement park / museum. My mind is blown. I would have spent a lot less time in Hurricane and a lot more time here if I had known I was gonna see all of this. Look at this old GMC truck right there. How freaking old is that? Here you go, we saw an early wagon, the last wagon, and this looks like the first truck, right? It basically is a wagon with a motor on it, a crank motor. There's that stamp mill. There's a sign over the door that says, enjoy the thrill of a 1902 Crusher stamp mill in operation. Well, it's not in operation today, but that is wild. I don't even know where they got this, if it's a local piece or something they brought here. That's amazing. What I do know is these Christmas decorations they have out here are absolutely insane. This looks like a bigger operation. They must do some kind of crazy Christmas fest out this way. There are animal cages. You got another caboose out here. I'm still a little confused as to where I am and am not allowed to walk. I feel like I'm still within bounds. This is very cool. I see a sign right there on that train car that says 95% of all materials used in this event are recycled or reused. So yeah, some kind of event happens out here, clearly. I can see back there some more buildings and wagons and all kinds of stuff. But she warned me not to go past the silver building, at least off in this direction. And now I feel like I might be getting to the edge of out of bounds. And given that they're letting looky-loos like me into this place for free, wandering around at our own leisure, you know, I don't want to break the rules and get us all banished from this place. This is amazing. Got an old buckboard looking wagon right there. Got an old international truck. Oh, this is so cool. Man, thank God for the invention of video, because I don't know how in the world I would ever explain this to anyone. I mean, look at that. Buffalo Bill's private railroad car. Got a big old oil tank right here and a big old caboose. This is just, my mind, I'm sorry, my mind is blown. You are seeing what it looks like when my mind is blown in real life, in real time. Dude, whatever the Christmas event that goes on here is, whether it's private or public, I want an invite next year. This is awesome. Oh, look what I just found on the ground, a wristband that says Western Elite Christmas Express. Oh yeah, look back there. I can see not only a train station, clearly for use with these tracks, but a big giant football helmet the size of a small house, bigger than the houses we saw this morning in Hurricane. There's a freaking camel sitting over here across the railroad tracks, which is made extra weird by the fact that all the other animals are in the center over there and this camel's just sitting by itself. He's a loner, Dottie, a rebel. Got these giant like flywheels out here. I'm sorry, my head is aching. This is incredible. I mean, you're living out in the desert, living and working on this property at the landfill and everything, and you build all of this. I mean, these people are like my heroes. This is amazing. Anyway, one place I know I am allowed to go is to go check out the little stone church. So I'm gonna keep going down this path and go check it out. Those are good old friends, the extraterrestrials again. It's a lot of walking. If you do come out here, be prepared for very dry, very sunny conditions. One of those days where the sun hurts even though there's some clouds in the sky. Man, this is cool. I love how the pamphlet didn't even try to tell the story of all this or where the Williams family came from or why any of the rest of this is here. It just went on and on about the stars and the way that RyanHenge works. This is the weirdest place I've ever been, and there is just no explanation. My mind is freaking blown. It feels a little better now that I've seen some other looky-loos out here. But look at this big sign for the Christmas Express, which is what's on those big railroad cars over there. So maybe they do use this for a big event. You know, share the wealth with the townsfolk. I don't know. I don't have the full explanation. I'll be doing some Googling later. I don't have any cell phone service out here right now. Okay, she told me to check out and to not go past the little stone chapel. There's another little bit of a garden here. And look at this beautiful green lawn out in the desert. And luckily the path is not roped off. Ooh, I could hear the donkeys out there. Just getting a little closer. You hear that? I think he's talking to me. He knows I'm a jackass. Oh, wow, look at this. Again, not what I was expecting when I was told to look for a Stonehenge replica at a landfill. Now, what the lady said out front was to pay attention to the glass, because it's all supposedly made out of Depression-era glass and old ashtrays, which is what that looks like. It's hard to see with the glare on here. Oh, yeah, that makes it a little more obvious. It's all recycled materials. I wonder if they collected that all from stuff being brought out here to the landfill or what? Or old buildings that were getting demolished? Sorry, I can't even talk. I'm getting tongue-tied out here. Not just because it's dry, but my brain. This is amazing. I wonder if we can go inside. Guess we could try the door. Got the friendly wave from one of the employees there. Let's test the doorknob. Okay. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. This is the weirdest church I've ever been in. 3 little 1.5-seater pews on each side of the aisle. A tiny little pulpit. Some beautiful glass windows. And then look at the murals or the frescoes up there. They do have a little air conditioner. It is not on at the moment. I wish it was. But look at that. And once again, seems very Christmas related. You have the nativity scene there. You've got Jesus. Is he praying for the world? His eyes are closed. Resurrection, a little teaching the children. He's leading this gal around. And then look at the patterning on the walls. This all looks like hand done and custom. And there they are. Look at these ashtrays. Oh, there's who painted the ceiling. There's a little sign, a little shout out there. Yeah, these windows are absolutely gorgeous. This is very cool. Old Depression era plates and ashtrays, she said. It's hard to imagine that looking at them from the inside. They just look like they were always meant to be this, you know? Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say this is the weirdest, given the context, this is the weirdest church I have ever been in. Especially because look at this, on the pulpit, we've got the Book of Mormon in English and Spanish, and then a book by A.J. Russell, I don't know who that is, called God Calling. And then check this out on the pulpit. We got a couple of little buddy Jesuses right there. So weird. This is very strange. I wonder if anyone's ever preached to the congregation from this pulpit. Or if it's just used for meditation or just as a curiosity. It's very, very, very surreal. I don't know what I'm feeling here. I definitely don't feel like churchy. I feel more like just a trespasser. This feeling like someone's gonna come find me and you're like, what are you doing in my church? Wow, that is amazing. I was just driving through dozens of miles of barren desert coming off the interstate to meet up with US 93, which really travels, I mean, through the middle of nowhere. Just a real remote area of the desert. But look at this, there are people who still come out and make the desert bloom. There's a lot of actual farming going on. I see chickens, I see goats, I see miniature horses over there. I wish I could go pet the miniature horses like I did yesterday. But she said there's like some private buildings and residences off this way behind the church, so we're not gonna go wandering and trespassing anywhere back there. But man, this is incredible. I can tell that they use a lot more of the property during the Christmas Express situation. Okay, I got one like little bar of cell phone service, and it does say the Christmas Express holiday train experience runs out here in early December each year, but it's like it doesn't say invite only event. It says like an invite / community oriented event rather than a large commercial event. So I don't know if you need a specific invitation or any of the locals are allowed to come out here, but it must look spectacular because these are some of the darkest skies in America. I mean, it's a remote area. That's why Area 51's out here in the first place, right? And the whole Nevada test range where they tested the nuclear bombs out here. And although Vegas is relatively speaking close and does pollute a lot of the night sky with light, it doesn't really reach out here that much. So when you come out here, man, you just see the most insane amount of stars and stuff, which is how, of course, Ryan Williams got fascinated with observing the heavens and building his RyanHenge over there. So I can only imagine that super dark sky with the mountains there and then the brilliant stars and then all these Christmas lights that you see. And there's clearly all these little grassy areas with lights above them. I mean, we're in late February. It's almost March as I stand out here. It's actually February 27th, 2026. So the fact that all these decorations are still up means it must be a big event. It must take a long time to dismantle and then set up again every year. But look at that. There it is. Freaking RyanHenge, dude. This is so much more than just a henge. That's what they, see, I'm running out of words here. That's what they should put on the brochure, right? RyanHenge. More than just a henge. It's a whole experience. And I guess, I mean, the lady kind of hinted at me that people live here. It might be a whole lifestyle. Once again, not what I was expecting to find from what on the map otherwise just looks like a landfill or a dump. And yeah, not a lot of people come out this way, but I've been out this way a few times. And never did I ever suspect that just off to my left when I was passing by on the highway was all of this. This is just incredible. All right, well, all good things must come to an end, including my visit out here to RyanHenge, a place that, as long as it's still this open and friendly to visitors in the future, I will definitely come and make a stop at and visit again. This alone, the henge, blows my mind. I wish I had a drone, although I'd probably have to ask for permission to fly it, just to look down at this crazy world map. I mean, I cannot explain how big this is. Like, there's nothing I can do to give you a sense of scale except for walk out here to the middle. I'm not even on the far side. And look how tiny I look now. And also, echo, echo for me. Can you hear that over there? Like I said, it has a diameter of 120 feet out here, which I believe means from the outside to the center pole is 60 feet, unless my math is much worse than even I think it is. And I did find some helpful information in the pamphlet, which I remembered and pulled out of my back pocket just now, which says that each of these columns out here are 2 feet thick, 13 feet tall, and have a 2-foot lintel at the top, giving the structure a total height of 15 feet. That's about 3 alleys tall. 3 alleys standing on top of each other. And then look, you can see that the width of the various pieces narrows and widens a bit, and so do the gaps. It talks about averages in the thing, but I can see they're all different. Oh, I didn't even notice this. On 2 sides of the inside of the henge, this one pointing towards where the sun sets, are little yin-yang symbols up there. Wow. It's weird that it doesn't echo here on the side. I have to travel back to the middle for the echo, and the closer you get, the more it echoes. Echo, echo, echo. Echo, echo. I like how I'm so mathematically and astronomically illiterate that I'm more impressed with the echo than the fact that this is a giant solar and lunar and whatever calendar. Deo, mi se Deo. Probably not what Ryan built the henge for, but hey, anyway, incredible. The absolute weirdest place I have ever been. I had no idea this much was here. RyanHenge. There's not even like a donation box. There's nothing. It's just Ryan's henge. Oh, look at this. Speaking of not understanding it, look, December, January, November, February, October. So this must be maybe sunsets or where stars rise up or something like that. The sun pretty much will set right in that spot. Looking out from the February and October gap, as you can see, it's getting lower in the sky there. Not too low yet, but still. I couldn't figure all this out with 20 textbooks and AI and scientists in the room to explain it to me. So bravo to these guys for just having a little bit of curiosity about what was going on with the sun, moon, stars, and then turning it into this. This just proves that cool things are still being made. They're getting harder to find, but there are those rare people and those rare families out there that'll still get successful and kind of share the wealth, dream big, and build incredible, bizarre things. All that's left to say is weird. RyanHenge. In context, it's the weirdest place I've ever been because it is so out of context. You know? All right, time to jump into Old Faithful here and hit the road. This is just absolutely bizarre. I can't help thinking 2 things. This is the type of place that if I stumbled across this any time in the past, I would have texted my friend Adam the Woo immediately, like, dude, you will not believe what I just came across. He would have absolutely loved this, and it is not lost on me that this family's last name is also Williams, so very kind of strange. Kismet, I guess, or just one of those little reminders from the universe. Well, at least for us, at least for now, the adventure continues. All right, well, I went way overboard. I probably made this adventure way too long. It's gonna take me forever to edit, which is a bummer because, you know what? I love the hotel I stayed in last night, but the Wi-Fi for some reason wasn't working, so it's been a while since my videos have been able to be uploaded. I'm just adding to the delay now, but that's okay. This was totally worth it. Speaking of Adam the Woo, the memorial is coming up in just a week and a day from the time that I'm standing out here at RyanHenge, and there is actually a lot to do and plan at home. It's really eating away at the video schedule, but sometimes some things are more important even than spending time with you guys. So I do need to be headed home. I have yet to decide whether I have one more day kind of roaming around the Old West out here, or if I I'm gonna head directly home tonight. I think I'm gonna decide that once I hit Vegas. But for now, I think we've done enough. I think we've done our duty. So do me a favor, check out the links down below if you want to help keep the show on the road and go farther afield and see weird places in the middle of nowhere. The best way is to join our Patreon, but you can also buy a sick Kindred Spirit hat or hot sauce or one of my signed books at store.randomland.com. And I've got an Instagram and a Facebook group and all kinds of other stuff. Just go to randomland.com and you can find it all. But the number one thing, I really appreciate you watching this, watching all the way to the very end, and sharing it with someone you think would like it. That really, truly helps me. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience, your kindness, your kind words. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. See you later.
RyanHenge, why are you so mysterious? Why do you have an arena and a train and this weird miniature little semi-truck trailer, which is only about 1 alley tall? What kind of truck is supposed to pull that? Does it descend into the henge and then pull this trailer on the winter solstice? I don't know. RyanHenge, come and see it when you are near Alamo, Nevada, on your way to the extraterrestrial highway. And then go home and sleep well, RyanHenge. Junior!
I've been driving away for a while, and my brain is still hurting. RyanHenge.